All right, coming up this week on Cocktails, Code, and Conversation, we have special guest Michelle Tucker, Vice President, Cybersecurity from Huntington National Bank. She's going to be on the pod having a good conversation with us about cybersecurity, diversity, inclusion, all the good stuff that you know we love to talk about here in the pod. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by On the Corner Podcast Network. Check us out at www.onthecorner.us, where we'll be launching two brand new podcasts coming up next month in September. The first one is All Mixed Up. You're going to hear all the raw and gritty details of what it's like to be an interracial couple in the South. Everything from raising a mixed family to being in a mixed family to all the things that are going on and how that affects you when you're in an interracial relationship. So can't wait for you guys to check that one out. Also, Open Door Conversations launches next month, as well as we'll start getting to some of the conversations that we usually don't have in the Black and brown communities, but we're going to be talking about them on this podcast. So check those two out, Open Door Conversations, All Mixed Up, coming to you on the Corner Podcast Network. But for now, let's go grab your cocktail, let's get some code, let's get to the conversation. We'll see you guys after the break. All right. Welcome, everybody, back to Cocktails, Code, and Conversation for another episode. Gotta love it. The quarantine edition continues, but we've got a lot of good stuff coming. And today we have a very special guest, because always, all my guests are always very special. But this young lady is a very special guest because of how we met. And we're going to get into that in just a second, because I'm going to tell you guys how she bullied me into playing axe throwing and archery, but we will get into that a little bit later. But we have Miss Michelle Tucker. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me give you some applause here. She deserves it. So, Michelle, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Thank you. I can't wait to share the story. So, Michelle Tucker, I work at Huntington National Bank. I'm a vice president in cybersecurity, and I manage the identity governance team. I always like to share that I am responsible for that thing that everyone loves to hate, right? Managing access. So, been in the game for a little over 20 some years and loving what I do and loving the people that I'm a part of, a team.
All right. So one quick question. Go to story. I always ask everybody this too. So how did you kind of get into cybersecurity, and then specifically where you're at now, like identity governance? What was kind of your path of it?
So I think the path would not be the same for most. It didn't start out that way, right? So been in the world for a little while now. So my first job really wasn't anything IT related. Sort of delved into tech writing. And I think that's where I actually got a lot of my connections of interviewing folks, learning your audience, understanding that you needed to sort of bridge the gap between what people know and don't know, what people think they know, and trying to translate that information back out. So I have a really good grasp of that. And that rolled into an IT risk management role for me. And then from there, it's the constant need of managing the business and the folks in IT and learning how to maneuver through the conversations and the information that you learn, that I sort of lended myself into the world of information security, cybersecurity. And then really just managing with the provisioning side of the house and being that liaison back to the business has sort of been my last 10 years worth of work.
Okay. And just so you know, it's funny as I talk to everybody, like nobody has the same path. Like everybody
right.
meandered their way into this. And you know,
or bullied their way in.
Or bullied their way in. And I think that's because, you know, like this, for as long as, you know, I've been in it now, and I know a lot of people that have been in it. In the grand scheme of things, we look at everything else, like cybersecurity is still very much a young industry, right? So for a lot of people coming up, I envy kind of the people now as they're coming up. It's something they can actually study and look for. It's like, hey, this is the field that I want to go into. For most of us, it was just like, what's this thing? We got to do what? Okay,
Right.
like
Like work and do what?
right.
How many hours to make it work? That's the kicker, right? Yeah, no, I would agree. It is, and so what's really cool about the younger generation that's walking into the playbook, right? Is we've done it, and while there's so much ahead that we still don't know, when we're learning and we're managing how to manage it. They walk in with a playbook because they've had some folks before them that did the stumble and fall,
Right.
the look and learn, the listen and understand. Um, but it's fun. I think it's fun because the world is our oyster. There's so much ahead of us that we have to prepare for, that I think the 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 foundation that we've all sort of set the tone for those of us that have been in the game for a while. It makes life better because we can talk about our experiences, but then someone with a new perspective allows us those aha moments. And I think that's what really excites me about where I am in my career.
Um, it's I think the biggest thing that I loved about it is that the challenges they change up like quickly.
Mhm.
So you're never stuck doing the same thing for very long, because this field just moves so rapidly, and that's while that's exciting and that's fun, that's also one of the things that's very frustrating about it, because you put in this work and you lay out a certain architecture, or you make certain plans to do something one way, and then just like that it changes, right?
Yeah.
Something's updated, or now there's new technology that's coming out that's changing the way things are being approached, right? I look at app development, especially within the last 5 years, how we've changed app development and the architectures and how we build apps. Now then, from an identity perspective, especially changes the way we have to look at identity and managing access, and what we're granting access to, and like the numbers of things that we're used to just increases. So the beautiful thing about it, there's always a challenge. I will say the painful part about it is that there's always a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So the work is never done. So be prepared. So it's to always kind of be shifting. So um, I want to get to the story of how we met, because this is, I will never forget this. So it was,
And you didn't want to meet me anyway. So yeah,
so
talk about that.
okay, I'll talk about that. So let's, all right. So it's Navigate. This is
2019.
2019 Navigate. So first of all, let me set the stage for everybody else. Navigate at the time. So this is when I worked at SoPoint. This was SoPoint's user conference, right? So we had this every year, and it's when all of the customers and partners from SoPoint come to one place, and we talk about SoPoint, do all the presentations, things like that. And so at that point, myself and Mike Kaiser had been hosting Navigate for, like, that was like the third straight year. So not only was I hosting, I was also giving presentations. And so there was always a lot, right? So working up to Navigate was always crazy. And then the day of events, so I'm always all over the place. So that's my context, people, before you start booing me. Uh,
I don't have a button for the boo though.
buttons are on my side. So, um, so it's the end of it's Navigate's party, right? Our tele event. So at the party, it's winding down. So this is like 3 days of just nonstop, going everywhere, meeting people, talking, doing these things, presenting. And so I am wiped. I'm finally getting to the point where I'm just like, okay, it's almost over. Like, I can turn the switch off, get ready to relax, have a good time. And I come across Andy, who's one of the sales guys. And he's like, hey, you got to come over here. You got to keep my customer. You got to meet Michelle. I'm like, okay. So we have this setup at the Navigate party where it's like this axe throwing and like archery. And so Andy's like, oh, meet Michelle. And I'm doing my thing. I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. He was like, well, you got to come play. You got to come throw the axes with me. And I'm just like, I really don't want to. Like, I just want to go get here
Sorry.
and go to sleep. Um, and Michelle would not take no for an answer. I was just like, no.
Who's this crazy lady?
So it's like, so we go over to do the axes. So we're throwing these axes, and it's not real axes, people. These are kind of fake toy axes. But I feel like I was set up because I feel like her and Andy had been over there like practicing for like a good hour. I walk up to this thing and I go for it. I couldn't get a single axe to stick to anything. Michelle comes and is just nailing them, right? Just I have the bullseye. And I'm just like, okay. Not only did she bully me into playing this, which I didn't want to play, now she's whooping my butt. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? Cool. I lost. It was a great game. All right, awesome. Have a good. She's like, no. Now I can do the archery. Now I gotta go do archery. And I'm just like, I just want my beer. Like you beat me in the axes. Now you go to beat me in the archery. Same thing. So I realized I'm horrible at outdoor sports. Um, but I
Yes.
also realized that Michelle Tucker does not take no for an answer.
And you're absolutely right. So thank you so much for leading in that. So let's talk about, yes, I'm a little bit assertive. We'll use that word. But I was really excited to meet you. So here's where the booze come. So I got to hear you speak during the conference. And then now that we're at the party, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. There's David Lee. And I remembered your name. And then Andy talked about you. So I was really, really excited to just say hi because I'm a huge people person. I like to talk to people. I'm not shy, as you know. So he did the introduction and he had this grumpy bear face on him. And then I realized, okay, I'm going to change that. I'm going to get at least one good smile. And I'm looking at him like, really? Not one smile? And he just had the grumpy bear. So he comes over and he goes, yeah, I'll play. And then he couldn't play well at all. And then the competitive person I am, because I was a tomboy growing up, I was like, oh, I'm about to kick his butt. So that really got me energized. And then I was like, okay. So then we started playing, and I'm like, ooh, he's really bad.
Really
So,
bad.
so we finished the one game, and yes, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll get him to smile in the next one. And he got me a half a smile, but as soon as he realized he was not getting the second competition done, he pieced out on me. So I was like, well, forget you, David Lee. And I think I said that as you were walking away from me. So, but did you want to follow that up with?
Nothing. Like the shame is completely all the way out there now. I've nothing to follow up. Look, I'm just being honest, people. I was tired. It was. I was just like, I think I stayed at the party maybe another 10 minutes after that.
Yeah.
And then
But what I wanted to say was what was exciting was so you left me, you just sort of pieced out, turned away. I'm like, I'm not talking to that lady again. And as the good Lord himself would have it, boom, walk into the conference in Vegas. And who do I see? David Lee. So no, a pleasure. I do appreciate you playing the game with me. And I know that it had been a long time, but it was exciting to meet you. And now look where we are.
right.
See?
Uh, it was it was actually a reminder for me, right? That it's one of those times. What I loved about all the conferences, but specifically Navigate at the time, and this is one thing. Even when I was at SoulPoint, and SoulPoint to this day still takes us to heart, right? That time is about interacting with our customers, right? And it's more so about because yes, they were a vendor and they sell these things, and so it's constantly you could be always at sales pitch. But the thing that I loved about Navigate, and I think a lot of customers loved about it was just a chance to hang out with the cool people that work at Sell Point, right? And kind of have that have that fun, have the relationship. And it just made the working relationship even better because like at the end of the day, like I think what I love about Sell Point is they're always very honest about that. Like things go wrong, right? It's not a perfect
Absolutely.
software. They're not a perfect company. People make mistakes, but when you have that rapport already, when you realize that the person on the other side of this, if you're on the phone or the email, is like, hey, I remember that person, like they truly are another person. And it's like, I know it's not their fault. They're doing the best that they can. So let's figure out a way to do that. And that always helps. So that was a good reminder for me there. But I'm to be honest, I was dead tired. I left after that party and I passed out and like the next morning. But
And
yeah,
I was persistent.
very, very. And it was I was shocked because I was like, usually I'm really good at finding nice, polite ways to get out of stuff. Michelle wasn't
Was
having it. Didn't
nope.
matter. It would have been an alien invasion outside. I'm like, look, I think there's some. She's like, okay, but we can throw these axes, and it was
And then go.
nothing could happen. Um, which you know what I think is one of those things that leads to success when it comes to managing a lot of the projects in the space that we do, especially obviously I'm biased identity because identity is like from a project perspective. I always say it's one of the hardest because it's not just an IT project. There's so many
Mhm.
different people that you have to connect with, and it's a business process project. You have to get all these stakeholders together, and you're changing a lot of times the way people are used to doing things, right? The way
Oh, yeah.
people are getting their access, the way people are managing their access, either is from the the admins who are like, well, we used to always create the accounts this way. Well, guess what? Now you're going to create it
Can't
this
do that.
way. There takes a lot of that. So I want to use that to kind of transition into just like what are some of the things is you've kind of led the identity governance team. What are some of kind of like your key takeaways that you would say like here are some factors for success?
You know, so I'm really big on my customer, right? So when you talk about sell point and the experience, even with us meeting, right? I do that on my side too. My customers are what the pulse of what I have to deal with. Uh, Understanding them and then also working with my team to think about the pain points they're sharing, what they're going through, even though it's our day to day, it's the thing you do, you know, every time you walk into work. It might be a little bit mundane from time to time, but when you think about the things you're putting in place for people to have an easier customer experience, right? That is huge, right? And then my customers on the other side, when they're upset, we don't want to do this. And they're frustrated. I'm like, but if we just do it together, it's a journey. That's my big thing for 2020 on top of everything else.
Right.
I'm really talking about this is a journey we're on together, right? With our sale point implementation, not a sales pitch for them, but we're literally in the crux of that now. And my customers are feeling that pain. And it's really about what can I do to make it better? Because when I do that for you, I then in turn do it for my team. And then that just makes the whole thing sort of mesh. But I'm really of the adage of let's just do the work, get it done. We can fix and build things better once that's in place, right? And it's understanding that what you started out with, there's change happening all around us. It's not going to stop. It's never going to stop. But how do we do this? And my tagline is building better together. I can do better if I know what's, your pain points are, what you're struggling with, what doesn't work. Because then I can think more. I can spend the time. I can dedicate those extra hours that we have in whatever extra 24-hour windows we don't have. but no, really, it's let me think about it because I have to think about you. And in turn, that means I'm thinking about my team because I'm that bridge between the two. How do we do that so that both get a good positive result at the end? That's how you have to think about it, right?
Awesome. And what has it been like? You currently have a VP, right? In the cybersecurity field, woman of color.
Yes.
Like, as you kind of break down that title, it's like, oh, okay, this is vice president. There's this many people. Oh, in the cybersecurity circle, there's this many people. Oh, she's a woman. There's this many people. Oh, she's a woman of color. There's like,
Woo.
like, talk to me a little bit about obviously, right? With what's been going on the past couple of weeks. It's been highlighted more. Everybody's more aware of social justice issues. I am a little bit more vocal in some of these things than most folks, but because I tell people, look, this isn't a 2020 thing. Like a lot of us, this is our life thing.
Life, yep.
Forever. Y'all just finally waking up and actually want to do something about it. But we'll save that conversation for another time.
That's for the other one with the glass in hand.
But talk to me a little bit about what that journey has been like, for you, some of the challenges, successes.
Wow. So long journey. Don't let the gray hairs fool you wherever. It hasn't been easy, and I will never sit up here and say that it has. But that tenacity that is a big part of Michelle A. Tucker, right? I don't give up. And, I can talk about my past roles where I wasn't identified as a officer, but I sat at the table with all of the officers, the senior officers, and I represented the space that I was responsible for or represented my manager for that space, but yet I didn't have the title. And it's something that I have never had to walk in a title to know my self-worth and what I bring to the table. So I have always had that belly thing, that gut distinction that my mother and grandmother instilled in me, that you are exactly who you are and don't let anyone make you feel less of that. I have two girls. They're 23 and 25, and it's the one thing I continue to do. We've talked about it since they could understand language, um, and it's big for me. It's you own the space that you choose, right? And you don't let the world around you take that away from you because it's yours.
Right.
So now that I'm in the space I'm in, I've had people over my years, they're like, "You're not a VP?" I'm like, "Nope." They're like, "Really? I thought you were, a different level." And I was like, "No, but thanks." But no, it's I want to represent. It's that brand. It's my name. When you hear me say Michelle A. Tucker, it's normally I'm going to give you an opinion that's mine. I'm not talking about anyone else, and it's really around I own my brand. So whether you think I should, or deserve a position, a title, that has nothing to do with who I am and what I bring to the table every day. And as you could see with the bullying moment with you, it just is that. But no, really, um, there's more work to be done. There should be more of us because they're skilled people. And it shouldn't matter what the color of our skin is or any of that. It's, I want to work with people that do good work, that are qualified, and so on and so forth. And I think when we start talking about those real skills and qualities and abilities and capabilities and all of that stuff, I think the world will be a better place when we stop worrying about what people's color look like. Um, it that shouldn't matter because you have good, bad, and indifferent all the way around the spectrum, right? I want to know when, as a people manager, that I'm paying you for a job because you are one of the top folks. And even if you're not like number one, then we're going to build you because you have the driver and you know, the the desire to want to do more and do the right thing. And that's the sort of stuff I taught my children. And that's the way I was taught. And I walk with that every day. Right. But I'm not cocky. I'm very confident.
Right.
I, I deserve a seat at the table and I'm going to get that seat, and I might just stand next to you if there's not a chair. So,
It's there's a bunch of powerful sit in there, but the one that I think resonates with me the most was, you know, understanding to being confident in your self worth, right? And that I think for a lot of people that I've, talked to or helped that, are of color when they've either seen me, talking somewhere or come to ask me things, I really tell them it's like at the end of the day, like know who you are and what you want to do, right? Because once you know that, um, then nobody can take that away from you,
yeah,
right? And then everything else, as cliche as it sounds, will kind of fall into place because once you have that confidence in what you are and what you want to do and who you are and what you represent, that will start to kind of outshine what you're doing, and it will make it very clear to you whether or not the place that you're in is going to be a place for that to be accepted or not, right? Because what happens is you start to do your job so well and you represent yourself so well that it starts making other people uncomfortable when you're not getting the things that you're supposed to be getting, right? And people see, like, people say this, like, well, you're not this, or you're not that, and like people start getting like, I've had people come to me, it's like, what do you mean that this is not, and they just get upset, and I'm like, hey man, like, it is what it
yeah,
is, right? I'll continue to do what I do, but like, if it's making you that uncomfortable, then that's great, because that kind of creates the the ecosystem for opportunity to take place. And then at that point, it's either there or it's not. And it's, I think one thing that's interesting is it's a journey to get there. I was very thankful that I had a lot of good mentors. My brother, I just kind of early in my life to kind of help me get to that point. Um,
right.
and it is frustrating, right? I've sat in many of meetings and seats and positions where I'm just like, okay, so I can do everything else, but
Mhm.
I'm not this. Okay. Um, and I won't, I don't tell people that it's easy. I may make it look easy,
Yeah.
maybe calm at that moment, but trust me, when I go home, oh, I'm cussing everybody out in their head.
That door shut, slam it.
um, but it's how you just continue to be in that moment. I
Mhm.
watched Tim Ferriss. I had a tweet today from a TED talk that he did, and it was talking about, being stoic, right? And just really, being able to look at something, understand what the situation is, really have a read on it, and take the emotion out of it, right? Which is sometimes really hard to do, but it allows you to kind of respond and act um, in a way that really benefits you, because now you can make a decision based on just kind of facts or things laid out. You can make a
Right.
clear decision and not an emotional one, which I think sometimes, you know, especially when it comes to, issues of diversity and inclusion, or feeling like, hey, like I'm getting, looked over because, I'm this color, or I'm a woman, or I'm this, or, LGBTQ, whatever it is, like that's emotional, because that's personal, right? Like it's hard sometimes to take that as an attack. But when you're able to kind of separate the two, then you can start to make your decisions, and do that with a clear mind. Because responding in emotion never fixes anything. Which I could tell
Although
you,
sometimes it feels real good.
it
Just,
look. Oh,
just
it feels.
I'm
Listen, it feels
just
great.
I'm just saying.
Does it,
Sorry.
does it always get you the results you
And
want?
not no, but
But it,
sometimes it's necessary. Yeah, no.
sometimes it is. I will tell a brief story. I had one of those moments. Oh man, uh, I don't know, 10 years ago. Um, and it was one of those moments when I look back and I was like, I should have done this better, but I didn't. And I let the emotion takes over. I told my boss every single thought I ever had about him, what he
Oh,
was asking me to do, and I was just like, nope. Um,
not doing
and
it.
while it felt great, and everybody was like, man, Dave, that was awesome. I was also fired the next day, which, granted, back on it, I was like, look, I wouldn't have kept me on either.
Yeah,
Um, so one of those times where it's like, look, it feels great, but looking back, it probably wasn't the best way. But probably it wasn't the best way to handle it. Um, but I also look back, and it's hard to say that it wasn't the right thing to do, because then it
right,
led me down a path that got me to where I am now. So you never know, but it is one of those things that, when I think, especially when it comes to people of color, when you're talking about diversity inclusion, especially in the tech space, which is very, very male and very white,
yes,
um, you know, these are the conversations that are important, and to have that level of, emotional intelligence is the PC word they use for it,
yeah.
right? Um,
To
to be
not go all the way off.
right, to not go all the way off, just a little bit, a little bit. You can learn to code switch, give them a little side eye, find the ways to get it in
That face. So, yeah.
Okay, so with that, um, what are some of the things that you look at now, right? So I want to stay on the diversity and inclusion topic
Hmm.
a little bit. So as we look at the current space now, right? And you said, look, we want to get to the point where it's like you're hiring the best person that's best qualified. And I think we all want to get to that point. But what do you think are some of the things that we can do to kind of help diversify the pool a little bit, so that way we're picking the best person for the position from a diversified pool? Because I think the problem right now is, and it's a lot of defense that they like to use, is like, well, I just want to hire the best person. Well, that's great when you're picking from a pool of people that, again, are all male and all white. Like, help diversify the pool and then pick the best person, because you'll probably find out that the best person may look a little different than you expected
So I love the question. Thank you. No, really, my most senior leader has raised the hand to say let's talk when we're having real conversations. That was a huge plus for us, and so we have a group of folks at work that we're doing that. However, one of the items I've been able to sort of raise my hand to talk about, and I'm trying to make sure I not only work it in my current um, company, but when I talk to folks, what about going for diverse suppliers? Like people who are truly working towards creating a pool of absolutely skilled individuals. Why not? Right?
to.
Why not say, let's shake it up a little bit? Let's call those folks and say, we want this again. I've been saying this, I've had a few conversations lately. It's not about check boxes, and I want folks to really get that in their head, right? I actually wasn't a checkbox. I walked in that damn door, kicking it through. I This is mine, right? What if there are companies that are really focused on the candidates because their brand is so important to them that they're going to do the right thing, right? When they land someone on your project, it's because those people are probably going to come in there and kick some natural butt, right? Changing how we look at that. Not that the other companies can't, but maybe they need to learn from smaller companies or companies, depending on the size of them, not that, but that are focused on their brand. Because when your brand matters, like again, I'll say Michelle A. Tucker, that's part of my brand. I don't put it on anything that I don't believe in. And when you are working with a group of people that that's what matters to them and it's their bread and butter, they're going to do the right thing. They're going to find you those candidates because they're going to go into their pool and say, I've already vetted them. We've already checked their skill sets. We know what they come to the table with. And work that out. Like have them have a focused um, campaign, so to speak, to go find you some candidates. See how they can do differently, and that's the charge I'm on right now. And I'm just trying to get to the table so people can talk to me about it. Right? Why can't we?
That's
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 awesome.
awesome.
I'm glad that you're doing it. That's probably one of the I would say one of the small regrets I have right now, kind of being um, kind of independent, is that I see a lot of my colleagues
Mhm.
that are kind of taking this action to fight for some changes within their organization, and it's one of those things where just like, man, like I would be, I'd be right in the mix, knowing me,
Mhm.
out his voice, like, hey, great, let's do this. But at the same time, I do like kind of being separate from any kind of entity, because I'm allowed to. I want to be able to have these conversations and keep them
Right.
open, and kind of say the things that sometimes a lot of people either are uncomfortable, or to be quite honest, because I've seen some of these policies, just can't say, because of that fact. But I love that we're in this moment where people truly are embracing these conversations that we have to have, which are not comfortable,
Right.
won't be, and that's okay, right? That they're not meant to be, comfortable. They're meant to make us uncomfortable and start to look and see what are some of the things that we can do to get better. And one of the things that I've been saying a lot is, let's just keep having these uncomfortable conversations until they're no longer uncomfortable, right? As soon as
Yes.
we can sit down and talk and say, okay, well, hey, let's look across and go, man, like we're not really diverse right now. Like, what's going on? Well, why don't we have more like women in our pool? What's like, and we can talk about these things without people kind of looking and saying like,
Right.
oh my God, did I offend? Like, no, let's just, it's just
No,
happening.
it's real.
Right. So
Yeah.
what do we do to make that better? Another kind of topic on there that I wanted to talk about was burnout. I think this is kind of like the silent killer within the tech industry, right? I think we in the tech industry, especially on the dev and engineer side, that's my background, kind of where I came from, right? It's a badge of honor, like you pound an energy drink, like you go and you just you code, right? You do what you do, and it's not it's this kind of like the culture that kind of came up around there, and so you kind of don't know anything different. And I think as we've look at the tech industry, we've moved so fast, right? It still amazes me, like just with cloud deployments and how software is being built, like the number of production like pushes and updates we do, like everything's constantly on a cycle.
Moving.
DevOps has been this great thing, but at the same time, I look at it as also very damaging to the whole work life balance, because somebody's always on, somebody's got to fix something, right? And so um, I particularly worry about people of color, because I'm about to get real for a second. We don't do a good job of taking care of ourselves, right? And we sometimes have this we a lot of times we already feel like, well, I'm behind the eight ball because I'm a person of color, right? I'm getting real. It's like, okay, you know, me growing up, it was always, look, you black, you got to do everything five, six, seven times better. a lot of us kind of have grown up with that, and that's become either, if we already had great work ethic, that grit's already extra in there. So you add that with, the pressures of being in cybersecurity and tech and just things always
Yeah.
going on, and you start to get like um these really bad burnout episodes, and sometimes people don't even realize that that's what's going on,
Mhm.
right? So with that as the kind of background of the topic, what are some of the things that you do for like self care or to self regulate and go, you know what, Michelle A. Tucker, you're going really hard. Maybe it's time to take a nice 3 day. Let me go get the girls and go for a 4 day weekend somewhere. Like obviously it's not in 2020, but
I was gonna say not this year.
not this year. But just in general, like what are some of those things that you kind of do to kind of give yourself that check?
So, um, I can talk about burnout. Your body starts talking, telling you things. Um, didn't realize how I was carrying stress for the longest, right? Because I was doing it well, until I started needing to have chiropractic therapy and actual massage therapy, because my stress tension spots were so hard that I could feel that my breathing was labored and things like that. Um, and that's just because, again, I've got single mom putting two kids through college. Um, so I started telling myself when I started feeling my body shift, you know, that breathable moments are real. I tell everybody else, right? I'm like, I'll tell my team, make sure you're getting up. All my folks in Akron, hey, go do this, go do that. Now that we've been dealing with COVID, it's make sure you're going to take your lunch, walk away, put something down, kicking them out of meetings, whatever it is. But I still wasn't doing all that for me because I got to keep it going. So I literally do the stop moments and say, nope, I'm doing it. And my manager's really good, and he looks back in and checks on me, and we sort of do it for each other. But I'm just reminding myself that the same things that I'm saying to my team, especially, I have to live that example, because if I'm telling them that and then I'm not doing it myself, then they're going to start going, maybe I shouldn't because she keeps going.
Right.
Yeah. And then I'm also, celebrating a newer year this year already. I have a lot of life in front of me and I want to be healthy and enjoy it. And I'm recognizing that at the end of the day, the work's going to be here,
Yeah.
right? We get it. Jump in, do some project stuff. But life is not stopping for us because we're working a job, right? And then I also want to make sure that I'm enjoying my life. My kids are now young adults. Um, my youngest graduated from Boston U with a computer engineering degree.
Okay.
Just waiting on that final paperwork. So excited. My oldest graduated in 16, but I want to enjoy them. I want to be able to be okay to enjoy them. So that's recognizing, hey, maybe at the end of the day, yep, it didn't get done. Try again tomorrow. But that's not to add time to tomorrow because I can't do that. It's just right. So,
Right.
taking a look at my schedule and saying, okay, maybe now, maybe not, right? And deciding how to move through. But some moments just saying, hey, I'm done with the day today and walking away. So I've learned how to do that better. Um, so end 2019, woke up preparing for the new year. And I said, Lord, you know what? I have watched life pass me by because, again, just at work, trying to get it done. I've got to get it done. I said, no more missed moments. That was my personal hashtag for 2020. So, yeah, I woke up day one, like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. So, that funny moment that he did. And I'm going, oh, so I got to try it again in 2021. Right. So, I'm like, I'm fine. I'll be okay. But no, really, that's my personal hashtag right now. I'm going to carry it over to 2021. I can't get home to Toronto to see my family. I've got new nephews and little people coming, and I can't get to them. I'm like, again, that message we talked about in the beginning. There's a reason there's a pause.
Yeah.
But when it sort of slows down and we're able to come back to some normal, it won't be the same, right? I'm running over the borders. Got to go see my peeps. I'm a big family person, so not being able to get in front of my family and be around them, ooh, tough.
Yeah,
But
I can attest to that. Right, I become so used to just booking a flight and going home to Cali to see my mom or see my cousins. Because I've been traveling. I've been a professional traveler for well over 15 years now. Like I'm just so used to it. And I've got a cousin, and we're both the same way, right? Like he's like, dude, we keep doing it because we love it. Like sometimes it gets old, but like just the ability to hop a flight, go somewhere. And
Mhm.
so this year's really made me focus and be in a better effort of reaching out, either texting or hopping on a FaceTime or something like that, because I'm just so used to being like, oh, I miss my cousins, I miss my
I'll
family.
be there.
Right, all right, what are you guys doing? All right, I'll be there tomorrow. Like just showing up. I
You
used to.
should try writing a letter.
Oh my gosh, look, I tell you, my penmanship.
It's almost like your axe story. Sorry. Okay, you were saying.
Okay, all right.
Just kidding.
It's it's probably worse than my act story. So look, when I
Oh my
graduated high
gosh.
school, yeah, it's not bad. Look, I graduated high school and my penmanship was like okay. I had worked to get it there, and then I went into computer science programming. So I was like, oh, I ain't really have to write. So I mean, I went like years without. I think the first time I had to write something, it's like
David, I'd like you to write me a letter. I'll
it,
send you my address.
it is not. It'll just be lying.
I'm like, I swear that looks like code. Oh my gosh.
Like, at some point, I'll just start writing code like. Uh,
Okay, sorry.
no, my penmanship was really bad. But it has been a year where I've been a lot more, you know, connected, to like my friends, my family, things like that. I've never been one for. I was always bad at like texting and keeping up, but now I've got like this group text with my college buddies who are these are like my brothers. We've been through so much together. Um, and so we're exchanging back and forth, like, so there's just so many things that I am thankful for with all the madness of this year, is that I've been able to pick up a lot of those connections and kind of keep that there. And it's I was definitely helped keep me sane through all this, because as a people person, being locked in a house, I'm just like, this
Yeah.
is
So when you went outside for the first time, we are like, oh.
look,
It's like,
I would get in my car just to drive around, like, and wouldn't go
mhm.
anywhere, just to drive.
Just
But I have my bike now. So we were on a happy hour call last week, and our mutual friend Richard Bird
Mhm.
said he was worried about me because he thought I was turning into a hippie because I have a garden now and I ride my bike. He was like, I think you've been in Austin a little bit too long during this pandemic. I was like, look, man, um, but no, so I do like I take my bike, I ride out, I try as much as I can to get outdoors because I can keep somewhat distance, with the bike.
Yeah.
So I see people coming, I just go the other way. Although it's going to be interesting when this all ends, because I feel like now this like social anxiety, this general social anxiety, we're just going to have this after trauma effect where people are just going to be out and about and just kind of sizing each other up and kind of
Yeah.
looking at each other and being like, get too close. I'm just like,
Right. Like, oh. We do that in the grocery store. My daughter and I were like, so Trader Joe's, great. Coming, she was in school in Boston, so we go to the one here in Columbus, and we try our best, and they do a great job cleaning the carts. They, you know, meter people in and out. So they have lines on the ground, and we want to go in the track that the lines are on. And so people come around, and we're all like, and we're going, like there's a whole section of lines behind me. Just wait. But because I didn't move fast enough, so yesterday we were in there, and this one lady, I'm like, I just want to go the opposite way that she's not. And my daughter's like, I'm with you, mom. And we sort of divert, and lo and behold, get right to the register, and we're like, come on, go away somewhere. But I think that's the way of the world right now. That's
I will literally down aisles and like, if there's if there's more than like two people down that aisle, like, okay, I'll get that
yeah,
later.
yeah,
I'm
not
back.
urgent.
I'll loop back around. I do the self checkout. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Okay, so two questions left.
Yes.
Um, the last question is the big question I ask everybody. This next question is, what would you say if you were invited to come speak to a panel of, I'll say, let's say high school girls who are getting ready to go to college.
Mhm.
They all have an interest in going to a technical career, right? Or doing something in tech, right?
Yeah.
And they said, Michelle Tucker, we want you to come in. I'm sorry, Michelle A. Tucker, we want you to come in and speak to these young women who have, different questions about whether or not they should go in the tech field. They've seen some things out there. What would you say to these young girls?
What do you have to lose? Right?
Right.
First question, what do you have to lose? Why not? It's something you want, go for it. Right? Biggest thing is you only have really one life on this side of heaven. Go for it. Are you prepared? Would be the follow up question. Have you talked to enough people? Did you do your research? Those are the follow up conversations. Right? Did you find someone to tap into? Did you ask your guidance counselor what they need to do to get you ready? Because that's part of their job. That's the problem with some of the schools, though, is they're not doing enough to prepare. I would love for my youngest daughter, again, computer engineering, tough field, started out in biomed. She said, Mom, our guidance counselors didn't get us ready for this. I heard from my oldest, right? I would love for her to find a few windows when she settles into her little job to start preparing something like that so we can share that backwards. I've been out of school for just a few years, and we're not doing enough to prepare these kids for that. Right? But knowing what I know, have a few resources, bring them with me. Tell me what you really want to do. Think about it. Because you don't want anyone stuck just thinking it's just a box called technology, because it looks like this. And what if we were to share what this really could be to them? I think more people that look like me and you would be in technology. We're just not invited from the early ages to say you can. So yes, beautiful about the STEM programs. They didn't have that when I was growing up. It just started when my kids were in school. So our community, we need to do more to get ahead of them and tell them to go back a little further. Start in grade school so that by the time they're in college or preparing to go to college, they are 100% ready to do the more. Because it's about the more. It's not about the thing called, I want to be in information security. I want to do, no, it's, do you understand what is ahead of you and what you can do with that education? That's what we need to do. And then, yes, all of us need to raise our hand and be mentors. We have a charge to do that, and I think we should all start doing it, right? So, this venue, beautiful, right? Share some of your conversations with schools, because maybe people will be triggered to want to know more. And take me when you go to your next conversation, because I'll go. I'll go anywhere you go, David.
It's this platform, the other ones that I'm helping to build, has been part of that to kind of help giving back. And really, when I came up with this podcast, is like I wanted people to, kind of get a look in to what it was like, and in a real way, right? I didn't, well, as I know a lot of people at a lot of different companies, and I'm always very choosy about who I do the interview with, is specifically because I want people that it's like, look, don't 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 get all corporate, right? Like you just gotta have like the conversations, because that's gonna draw people in, and hopefully bring up issues, and get that out to people that look and say, oh wow, this is interesting. um you know it was actually Marcus Carey, who I'm working on trying to get onto this podcast as well, who challenged me the most actually recently last year. It was before, man, time flies. It was last year. It was before I left Soul Point, and he was there visiting Soul Point for some things, and so we were just kind of talking, chopping up on his way to the elevator, and I told him we get to talking. I forgot how we got to it, but that I went to North Carolina A&T, and he was, oh, I'm mentoring somebody that went to North Carolina A&T. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. He was like, he goes, yeah. So who are you mentoring? He goes, because you got to be mentoring somebody, right? And I was just like, I was like, well, no, not really. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, well, why not? And I told him, I was like, man, and this is a flaw in myself. It's like my standards are so high for myself that I'm always kind of pushing things. So it's like I tend to minimize any kind of success that I've had. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's cool because I want to get to the next thing. So I always look back. I was like, dude, I haven't done a whole lot. Like, who am I to mentor somebody and kind of tell them what to do? And so Marcus looks at me. He's getting ready to get in the elevator, and he looks at me. He goes, but where are you at right now? He goes, you're here at Cell Point, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, you've been doing this a long time, right? He goes, yeah. He
Mhm.
goes, so what do you think you're waiting for? Like, just go do it. And then like the elevator door closes, and that's how he leaves. And I was just like,
Love it. He dropped the mic. He's like,
oh,
damn.
like, oh, like, wow. I was like, that
But
hurt, but in a
he's
good
right
way.
though.
He's
He's
absolutely right. He's absolutely right. And since that conversation, I've made sure that I was like, look, I'm available. I'll take any text, any call, any whatever DM, LinkedIn message that people send out. And I'm like, yeah, like I'll sit down, I'll talk, I'll walk you through like what I've done or what I've learned and things of that nature. So it is definitely on us to make sure we do that. And I'm
absolutely.
the first one to raise my hand and admit it's like I haven't done a great job of doing that. But I want to do more of that because I want to make sure that people have that understanding. Oh, she's about to sign me up or something. She's got that look in her eye. I want to make sure that people have that understanding and that love of this industry that I
Absolutely.
had, right? Because to your point, it is a big, broad industry. I got into this coming out of my high school counselor didn't know anything.
Yep.
Um, I found all this stuff kind of like on my own. I just knew that I loved computers, so I wanted to go study computer science. Went to an HBCU, said, okay, so I'll learn computer science.
Mhm.
And never touched a program a day in my life. Most people grew up saying they were programmed by the time they were 8, 9. I was like, I don't know anything about it. I just know computers. And so it was just kind of each area I just kept learning more and more and more on my own. And when I came out and realized that, okay, there's this broad field, I mean, I could go either from, network security to programming, there's all
Mhm.
these things, right? And I think it's expanded even more. Like I would love to see even more, product managers,
Yep.
right? I think and I'll save this for in front of the time, so I'll give you a little bit of it, but like
Mhm.
I think product management is an area, especially for people of color, we won't have these incidents that we find these apps and these tools that are developed and that unknowingly discriminate against people of color because we don't have any people of color to give
Yeah.
their experience of like how a product should be. It's like, well, hey, like here's how I think about using a product or
Mhm.
this, whatever. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
you have any of that, then it's true ignorance why these things happen. Because you got a bunch of people who don't know what it's like or have that experience. So they're building a product based off of what they know. Right.
Yep.
And most of the time it's a bunch of frat boys, sitting around saying, oh, yeah, this should work. Right. But so that's an area that I really feel like, again, if we make this more open and let people know what all exists within the tech world, we'll get a lot more people interested. So
Absolutely. And yes, I'm going to invite you to something.
oh my
So
God.
yeah. So International Consortium of Minority Cybersecurity Professionals. We open up or created a chapter here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm one of the founding board members.
All right.
We actually have our quarterly meeting tomorrow. But no, we would love the opportunity for folks like yourself to talk to our members, right? They're looking for people to look up to and provide guidance at varying ages, varying uh, career development. And we are just trying to have a network within our Columbus or Ohio base for now, um, where we can say we're coming together and we have different board members, not at the same company, we're across the city.
Right.
And we just want to come together and build this foundation because again, it's the constant conversations about what's out there. We have people switching careers and they're encouraged to do more. And one of my favorite people, I won't call his name, but if he hears this podcast, he'll know who I'm talking about. He came to our first meeting and his big thing was like, is this another networking? You could just feel it. Is
Right.
it just networking? And shared the story. He's like, Michelle, I don't know. I said, come on, just hang in there with me. Right. I said, just be on this again, that journey with us.
Right.
And he has come to every one of our meetings. He is one of our active members and he's, learning more and he participates. And he told me, thank you for inviting me. Right. It's just that invitation. And maybe you don't get to mentor to the fullest degree of mentorship. Um, I have a few surrogate young people who call me auntie or, stuff like that because we have conversations. It's that conversation that starts so much of this, gets their mind going. It's like reading a book, but you're having a conversation about what can unfold in each page. That is what and where you start. So I would love for folks to understand that you're not the best axe thrower, but you have all of that amazing inside of you, David, that we need to hear from. I heard you speak. Kristen Addis, who's on my team, was with me in Navigate. And she was like, "Do you know who that is?" At first, right? And then I was like, "Well, I've seen stuff about him here." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, every year I've come," and she's been to a million of them.
Yeah.
And she spoke so highly of you. And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't come to the table with all of that to offer someone?" Yes, you do, David Lee.
and Marcus, in the way that he does, snap me out of that. And it's very. This is also my confirmation, because I actually owe this to Larry Whiteside, about the same organization. Because
yes, he's our president. Yep.
Yep. I remember he told me about the organization when I interviewed him a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And I remember checking it out, and it was on my to-do list, and it just sank down. And so I owe that to him, because him and I, when we end up connecting, it was instant. I'm so glad that a mutual friend of mine, we kept circling each other for a while, and then we just got on the phone, and
awesome.
We looked down and it was like, man, we've been on the phone for like an hour just talking. So I love everything that he's about. So I definitely do want to get more involved and check out that organization. So there's some things there that I think again to continue to benefit the cause. And this is, for me, it was always, this was always a fight for me in every organization I was in, right? Trying to make sure that, people understood that it's, we've got a long way to go. There's change that can be made. But I think now, with everything that's going on, I think there's a lot of people who feel a little bit more empowered to to say their voice, because they feel like, okay, well, everybody's talking about it, so now I can kind of sit and talk about it. And we have to keep pushing it, because we're getting right to that edge of the cycle, which we tend to do in society, where it's like, oh, okay, well,
we're done now.
We're done now, right? Like,
no,
it's
over. Is it over yet?
Like, I mean, but wait, but like, no. So we need to keep pushing and continue to get louder, so we can actually make a difference. My thing is, we can't change everything, but we can do everything we can for us that's in this space right now to make sure that it's different, right?
Absolutely.
My nephew, my oldest nephew, just had a son, and so I thought to myself, I was like, by the time his son gets ready, to enter the workforce, I want it to look different. I don't want him to have the same, issues or
struggles,
right? That I had, and that his dad had. So, which is still weird, the fact that my nephew has a son.
Yeah.
Such is life. So with that, we're gonna come up to the end of the and I asked you a question. So all the millions and millions of subscribers and followers, they love this part of the show. I'm just kidding, they love it. But it's the final question, and the question I ask everybody is, Michelle A. Tucker, what do you want your legacy
to be? Ooh, my legacy. So, funny question. I'm not going to ask a question, but I often ask my girls, if I died tomorrow, what would you say? What would you say about your mom? So, I want, huh? Yeah, once you get over all the other stuff. My legacy that I'd like to leave is that I really imparted some life growing deposits, words of encouragement. It's not just about the actual words, but that I have touched people in a way that when I leave this world, they're like, I remember her because, and I think it's my human side of me, that inner piece, that I would give all the love I have to someone if it meant that they would live and be free, right? I would do that, not just for my children, but for the people that I'm blessed to know. Because it's not about money. I've never been a money chaser. Money's really nice, though. I'd really like some more, but that's another factor. But no, really, it's my prayer is that when I'm called home to glory, that the place where my children or whoever's left to honor me in death is that it's full. And I've asked my kids, I don't want people in black. You are not allowed to wear black at my funeral. I mean, I'm not there, but I want it to be a sea of flowers, like just colors all around, because that's a celebration that if you met me, you wouldn't be morbid and you wouldn't not be smiling or playing axe throwing with me, David. But that part of me is imparted to you, right? That I said just enough to you that makes you go, yeah. I don't know if you can really get what I'm saying, because it's not about I want to leave a painting or, that quilt that she made. No, it's really about that something about Michelle gave you a little bit of light to go on. So, yeah.
Like everybody, I think it's funny. Everybody kind of says their piece and they all kind of say something similar. Like, well, it's that answer your question, or is that what it is? I was like, you know what? Like, the beautiful thing I love about that question is there's no right answer. Like,
Yeah.
you see what you want to leave, that's what you want to leave. I just think I don't know. I love the question because it kind of really gets to reveal the heart of somebody, but it also kind of, makes you think, and reevaluate kind of some of the things that you are doing. And when you think about, well, this is what I want to happen and how am I aligning to that? So,
Yeah.
Also, I think it's just a cool question. So,
thanks. So I plan to come to Austin. My girlfriend keeps threatening she's going to send me a ticket. I'm just not ready to be on the plane with her.
I don't.
But when I'm there, I'm coming to see you.
I will be here. I will be here in Austin.
Awesome.
Not going anywhere anytime soon. So, with that, Michelle A. Tucker, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap this up. So, everybody out there, stay safe as always. To the next cocktail, to the next conversation. See you guys soon. Thanks for listening to Cocktails, Code, and Conversation. Check us out at c3.onthecorner.us. Make sure to go and sign up for the C3 Squad. Get discounts on merch. Get your official C3 Squad member shirt, as well as more shirts that we have on the merchandise store. Yes, that is right. The merchandise store is live, so check us out again. c3.onthecorner.us. Please, please, please like, rate, or subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to this on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, to the next cocktail, to the next conversation, I don't know what to do. Stay safe out there.